Everyone, delighted to be jumping into the warehouse space, the personal office of comics creator Michel Fiffe. Michelle, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for saying yes. I appreciate that so much.
Of course, thanks for scheduling me in. It's been a road to get here.
It is all
Long
good.
road.
You are a busy person, a busy person. Uh,
People's schedules are all over the place, so I appreciate you having me on at any time. So thank you.
well, thank you. Thank you so much. Folks out there will know you for Copra being one of the first works that comes to mind. And if I mispronounce any of these titles, please just jump in and correct me.
Of course.
Zegas,
Yeah.
Panorama,
Uh-huh.
and then there's also work that you've done for Marvel. So there's sort of the pantheon of hits that folks might know. Any titles that I might have missed there that you want to make sure to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I try to hit up every publisher as
Mhm,
much as
mhm.
possible. Uh, but one of the things that I've done, not recently, but I don't know, it's been like 5, 6 years. But I worked on Rob Liefeld's Bloodstrike
Yes.
for a
Uh-huh.
series called
Uh-huh.
Bloodstrike Brutalists. And
Mhm.
I look back upon that stuff fondly, which is rare for me because usually I can't look at my old work at
Uh-huh.
all. Um, but I really had a good time working on that. It was a genuine thrill. So yeah, that's another one to add to the list.
Definitely, definitely. The Liefeld universe, it's quite a spot, quite a space.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
extreme verse for sure.
that's right. Uh, so you mentioned the path here and the path to our talk, but I'm curious about your path to being in this space. How did you decide that comics were the space where you wanted to create?
Oh, well, I grew up with comics around um it was a kind of a typical childhood thing that every kid had, comic books,
Mhm.
toys. We watched cartoons. There was just a lot of stuff, video games, and and I had all those things, but comics were the thing was the one thing that drew me in. I don't know why. I don't know. I can't really tell why. I think it was just like the specific nature of the art with the words. I mean, it's as simple as that. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
I learned how to read through comics because
Love it,
English
love
is my
it.
second language. I uh I grew up in well, I was living in Spain, so I just spoke Spanish up until I was like 6, pretty much, and but I loved comics before then, and I think that really helped me um not only learn English, but just how to break down images
Mhm.
and their
Mhm.
meaning in a deeper way than I couldn't really articulate this back then at all, but just in retrospect, I think that's why I liked it so much, as
Yeah.
opposed to something like toys or video games. That was just sort of like a superficial, I'm playing with this thing now. Comics was way more intimate. It's something I could do. I could pull out a sheet of paper and start drawing with a crayon or a ballpoint pen
Mhm.
and sort of replicate that thrill. And I've been doing that since. And that's
Love
kind of
it.
where it started as just as a little ass kid.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah. As somebody that teaches English on a daily basis, I am just fascinated, and I love the fact that you say comics were sort of your way into the English language. Very interesting and very cool.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely had ESOL classes in first grade. I remember when I moved to Miami, Florida. And uh and that's not to say that I didn't watch television all the time. The television was on all the time, and I'm sure that helped considerably, but comics really was my obsession. Like I was obsessed with these things. I wasn't
Hmm.
really a collector. I just whenever I came across them or my parents would give me random comics, I would just love them and keep them and covet them. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older where I was like, oh, these things continue and they're larger stories, and I could actually seek them out and
Hmm.
kind of cultivate my own little uh pocket of the universe
Yeah.
with favorites. I had favorites, and I started noticing credit boxes, and I just tried to decipher what those even meant. Like, what's the difference between a penciler and a letterer? Like, I get what a writer is, but what is an inker? Like, what does that mean? No one's telling me what that is.
Yeah.
And so throughout the years, I would just kind of decode this thing. I was just enthralled by this item, this comic book. I mean, even the indicia, just the address of where it came from, the
Hmm.
copyright law. I just didn't understand it, but I'm like, I was so fascinated by it. I mean, I still am to a large degree, just by little details like that. So yeah, my obsession has early roots, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Now you craft in a really interesting way. I love your style and the types of stories that you tell. Are there particular threads, particular aspects of a story that really connect you to the work?
Well, in terms of comic books, I think the one thing that I respond to the most, no matter what kind of comic I read, whether it be a comic strip, a new graphic novel, an old comic book, um, I have to recognize a sort of personality in the work.
Mm-hmm.
And that might sound vague, but to me, it's not. It's like it has to come through, even in, and this is not a indie versus commercial thing. You could see personality through commercial works all the time, but I need to see some sort of glimmer of not even vision. Vision is too grand of a concept, I think, for this, for what the point I'm trying to make. Just a personality, you know. If you're
Yeah.
writing a story and there's like a little character, a little joke, or a little, not a wink, but just something that tells me about the creator, even in the way you draw.
Hmm.
Little- it's a little nuanced, even though it's kind of an obvious thing, but those are the things I like the most. And it could come down to like the lettering. That's why sometimes I just like it when an artist letters their own work
Hmm.
because it's just one more level to their personality, to what they're trying to say, to the direct message that they're trying to put out there. And you don't get that in other media, but in certain types of comics, everything's just kind of uh developed in a different way, in a different manner, not lesser and not more. It's just different, right? And the kind of comics that I like, kind of stories I like, just give me a little something extra, a little bit more, that personal touch.
Yeah, yeah. But I love how sometimes you can see someone's art even from across the room and you go, oh, that's that person, whoever it happens to be. And I also love those moments in a story where something comes up and you go, I know this is something that connects this person to the world.
Yeah.
It's part of that human connection you get from reading, really. So
For sure. And we all
echoing
get it,
that.
I'm sure, from different sources. Like I might get it from something that you might not think who, whose personality doesn't connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I certainly read comics where there's tons of personality that I don't connect with, but I appreciate the effort.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
has to be there for me to like really love it. Um, yeah, and story-wise, I like stories like even if it's a single issue out of a long arc. I like that one chapter to have something to hold on to. It's not just another chapter. I like just completed little things, like a little pocket of time.
Hmm.
That's like for example, like one of my first comics, one of my first yeah, when I first started collecting was X-Men. It was issue whatever, very deep into the run. I had no idea what's going on. And
Hmm.
that wasn't a stumbling block. None of these comics were, I never started at a number one. I never started from the beginning. And comics back then was like, you had to work hard to get them.
Yeah.
They were everywhere, but you can't just start with like a collection or digital versions. So I think we just conditioned ourselves to take that and just accept that and move
Hmm.
forward because it's either that or nothing. And But in looking back at those kind of comics, the better ones are the ones that you could just enjoy on its own. You don't have to have the other 30 issues. You could just have that one, and it's a satisfying meal.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
fulfills you enough. Does it make you want to come back for more? Hopefully. And if not, okay, it tried doing its job. It did its
Yeah.
best to get you hooked. It
Hmm.
worked or it didn't, but it lived on its own merit. And I respond to those kind of stories. And they still exist. I'm not saying like back in the old day. This is not some like old man rant. Like
Right,
those
right.
comics very much still exist
Yeah,
by
yeah,
brand new cartoonists, but it's definitely a style. It's definitely a thing.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And that idea that you can pick something up and just carry it with you jump back 2 or 3 issues later because I remember getting like maybe a 2 and then you'd miss the next few issues and get a 5 and so you'd have to like fill in.
Oh yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. And then going back and filling in those gaps, even back in the day, I remember filling in some gaps and I read them and they were fine and I loved them. But to this day, like I just have a fondness for the ones I did have
Hmm. Hmm.
instead of the ones that I just filled in issues, whatever, whatever. The ones I originally had and I really fell in love with, I still love them
Yeah.
unconditionally.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't need a complete run. Sometimes I want to just get rid of all this stuff that I got later and just keep the stuff I got in the first like 2 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, in a way that sort of sparks your imagination. It engages you in a different level. It makes you feel like you're a part of it. You
Hmm.
don't need to know everything. Nothing has to be spoon-fed to you. It almost seems more majestic in a weird way, like this
Hmm.
grand thing that you're just taking in little by little at your own pace, right? So I don't know, man. I like that stuff. I
Yeah.
like that
Same.
approach.
Same. Love that. Yeah. So as you have made your way from reader to creator, have there been experiences, have there been folks, relationships, connections that have been especially supportive that kind of bubble to the surface?
Oh, well, I mean, well, in what regard? Like just in general or collaborations or
Thinking
or
mainly about collaborations, and people that have supported kind of on the industry side.
okay, yeah, because I was about to say like a big supporter that I always credit is the store Bergen Street Comics,
Hmm. Hmm.
run by Tom Adams and Tucker Stone. And they were huge supporters of Copra early on, and that was an important ingredient in making it sustain itself, making it happen, making it live past my studio walls. I
Hmm.
think they were instrumental in its success. But as far as collaboration, I do it all myself. I don't usually collaborate. And so as a result of that, I kind of see it as grass is greener,
Hmm.
like it's
Hmm.
like, oh, all those old comics we were just talking about, those are all results of collaboration, of just kind of like hanging your ego at the door and letting things happen
Yeah. Yeah.
within a commercial enterprise. And that's the whole thing. These are commercial properties. These are just jobs, not to be reductive, but it's just a job.
Hmm.
And that's why, we could obsess over a certain panel on a certain page and meet the person, the creator at a convention. They don't remember what they did. It was just another job, right?
Right. Right.
And so the way I approach it, I just work on it on my own, which is not that atypical. I mean, it's all undergrounds, it's manga. Well, maybe not manga, actually. I take that back, but that's a different sort of regiment, creative regiment. But, undergrounds, independents,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
syndicated strips, classic strips. It's all just the work of one creator doing it all themselves. And so it's not that uncommon, but it's uncommon in superhero mainstream comics, in American comics, where you just kind of have to produce the thing quicker. So it's not an artistic thing, it's a practical thing, it's a practical issue.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of romanticize the collaboration, but I have collaborated a handful of times. Most substantially would be with the all new Ultimates for Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
where I was just the writer. I was hired just to write, which was weird for me too, because I see myself mostly as an artist. I could do that with more facility. Writing took me forever. Anyway, I wrote, I got the art in from the penciler who I think inked his own work. Then it was colored, it was lettered, going back and forth with the editor and the assistant editor. I think that was a pretty enriching experience for me. I don't know if I could do that all the time, and as a result, I didn't pursue that trajectory, you know. I kept to myself. I went back to my like, in fact, I was producing Copra issues around the same time. It was like one issue of All New Ultimates, and then I would get back to the drawing board and pump out an issue of Copra.
Hmm.
Uh, but I think that was healthy to have both avenues at my disposal. now that I'm wrapping up Copra somewhat, I'm gearing up to the 50th issue. I think my next era will be one of collaboration. I just don't know to what degree. I don't know what that means. All I know is that as a larger abstract, I think I kind of want to collaborate. I kind of just want to talk to more people, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and then go back to I will always have this area, this arena to work in. I could always do that. But I think collaborating is, I don't know, it seems special and fun.
hmm hmm That sort of taps into my next question, which was going to be, as you're in the warehouse space, as you're in the creative space, I was wondering about those next steps. So congratulations on an incredible run of Copra as well.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. By the way, for the listeners, what Jason is referring to is my warehouse, which is right behind me, which is really my workplace. Yeah, I have my desk right here where I work, and then I just ship everything on this side. So this is just like the beginning of chaos, right? And I'm
Yeah.
about to start shipping out my new book, which is the Creating Copra book. It's a DIY guide, and that's being shipped right now.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to. So behind me, all this is just going to be boxes. No kidding. From
Wow.
top to bottom, it's just going to be all boxes, and it's just going to be me stuffing boxes, printing labels, and shipping them right out. And then I'll get back to the drawing of the next issue. Uh, but what's my current creative
Pursuit
obsession?
or vision. Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like collaboration is going to be part of that.
Well, collaboration, I do want to wrap Copra up in a dignified way.
hmm hmm hmm
I don't want to be late. I don't want to, I don't want to, I want to give it my all, obviously. And that's the thing about Copra. It's my opportunity to give it my all every time. And I don't know how I'm not exhausted by that.
Yeah.
I'm very much excited to like attack the next issue and get it out there and have it be better than the previous issue.
hmm hmm
Um, I did take a small break, I think back in 2018, 2017, and that's when I worked on that Blood Strike book I mentioned.
hmm
But then after that, that's when I returned, and it was the best move possible, really, just to have a little refresher. Because after a while, you just kind of exhaust yourself, and you're taxed, for a number of reasons, not creatively, but just the outside world, the market, the way it
Yeah.
fluctuates. Um, but I'm back. I'm working on new issues, and I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as obsessions go, uh, did you mean like what I'm like into, what I'm reading,
I'll be
or
glad
just creative?
to. I was thinking creating, but I am a reader, so always glad to hear about the reading processes as well.
Well, the thing is this, there's a local place in Brooklyn called Koch's Warehouse, right? And that I think I've started to use as my local comic shop. It's not a comic shop, it's a warehouse, and it's a destination point, and it's nuts. You got to look it
Mm.
up. Unfortunately, it's closing in a few months.
Uh,
So what I'm doing is I'm instead of going to the LCS to buy the latest thing, I'm actually going to Koch's warehouse to try to get as many things as I can that I don't see anywhere else.
hmm
Now,
hmm
what I mean by that is that it's not that I'm getting like super rare, crazy things, super expensive rarities or anything. Um, I'm just talking about comics you don't see in the bins anymore. No one talks about it anymore. Kind of like mid-level publishers that came and went.
hmm hmm
Um, so I kind of it's not that I'm reading a specific like title or anything. I kind of just want a whole publishing line. I just
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
want to collect by what I mean by that is like First Comics, Kamiko,
hmm
Eternity, Innovation, just, Image before it was Image, right? Like
hmm
80s independent stuff that had a lot of, Pacific. I mean, it's sort of endless in a way. And a lot of
Yeah.
these publishers had great anthologies. Vortex was out of Canada. Uh, Tons of great creators. You will never see this stuff reprinted if you even know what it is.
hmm hmm
So this is like really great works, legitimately great works. most of them. Well, most, I don't know. We could go back and forth on that every day, but it's gonna be gone. And
Right.
that, and this emporium that specializes in this such a stuff is gonna be gone as well. So I'm sort of, listen, I don't need an excuse to look for this kind of stuff, but that's the excuse I'm giving myself that it's not gonna be there because it really is not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gone. So I'm into that kind of stuff, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rediscovering and preserving some of the story that's been. I love that.
Yeah, and that includes fanzines also.
Hmm.
That includes the fan press, stuff like Amazing Heroes or Comics Interview,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that kind of stuff no longer exists. I mean, the new version of that is like what you're doing,
Right.
like your show,
Hmm.
essentially, you know.
Hmm.
And some other people do it with news. They just report news. And these old fanzines are great because they combine that and they have like old weird fan art by future pros. Like you
Yeah.
get to see old crusty Bruce Timm art. Uh,
It's
except it's
very
not
cool.
crusty. It's great. He's always been really great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frustrating, but those magazines are so important to me. I've collected them all my life, but now it's like, oh, the clock's ticking. I better get as many as I can, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my current thing, and all that stuff feeds my work also. This is not just like a
Yeah.
side thing that I just like clock out and then I go enjoy comics. It's sort of it's all in the mix. It's all of one thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, there is no clocking out. Oh, for
Yeah.
better or for worse.
Yeah. Well, then as you're reading, it's almost like how can you not be inspired in some way or be challenged in some way or
Right.
uh, kind of speak to yourself as the creator as you're reading. So that makes total sense.
Yeah, and after 40 something issues, I could kind of look back at the issues and know what inspired me during that
Mm-hmm.
period. When I
Hmm.
discovered so and so, or when I really started utilizing this certain approach to inking, very specific things. Or, there's a period where I really was really into exposition and using exposition as a tool that's not like a faux pas. I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, this
Hmm.
could be used intelligently, and there's a use for that. Let's see if I could do it in a modern way, in a modern context, as opposed to like an 80s or 70s context where you're just like trying to, you know, uh, tell the new reader what's going on.
Right,
This
right.
is why we fell in love with comics in the first place.
That's
So
right.
there's a
That's right.
there's a pocket where I used a lot of thought balloons and exposition, and I wanted to play with that form. So there's that sort of thing. All this stuff informs my work. So I really appreciate all of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and great to be part of the creative conversation that way and to bring those things in, to infuse them and to kind of take that next step forward onto the next story that's told.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and it's never ending. I don't see an end in sight. So
No, no. Very cool. Well, I think I have one more official question that's
okay.
on the list that I always like to make sure to mention because listeners out there might be very familiar with you. They might be just discovering you. I'm curious about the spaces, either online or physical spaces that you like to frequent, as far as conventions and things like that, where people can learn a little bit more and see the work and
Of course.
support.
Sure. Well, I'm pretty much on every social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Threads. It's all under my name. Just type in my name, Michel Fiffe. Um, and you could also go to my website, just michelfiffe.com, and that has links to my Etsy store where I sell directly books and issues. I think I have like one more shirt left. I have to do more of those, but my website has it all, and it has an FAQ about Copra, kind of like a brief history and summary of what it's about and what the journey it's taken to this point. But that's pretty much it. Just look me up.
Cool. Well,
Oh, Patreon also. I do have a Patreon.
yes.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, I'm on Patreon too, and that's where I kind of go a little deeper into things. I write essays and reviews
Oh,
or just
cool,
whatever
cool.
whatever comic I'm reading, if I
Hmm.
love it, I have to just dedicate a month to it and just write a huge piece. And you know, I share process stuff and things of that nature. So yeah, Patreon. Like I said, every social platform you could think of, uh, except Twitch, because
Yeah,
yeah, I think that's a video game thing, ain't it?
I think so. I think
I'm
that's
not
right.
sure. But anyway, I'm out there.
Yeah,
You'll be able
yeah,
to find me.
absolutely. Well, Michelle, thank you for the time. Thank you for the work. Glad to have you back anytime as you're working on future issues, collaborations, all the things. And once more, I'm just going to express gratitude for taking some time out of the day because I know you're a busy person.
No, it's all good. No, you are too. Thank you so much for asking. I love being here.
Absolutely.
So anytime.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care.
You too.